Well, good morning. We're still working on that Martin Jr. guitar, and just ran into a little bit of an issue. And I'm going to show you exactly what's happened on this. And you can see it's back in the background there on the desk still. And I'm going to take you around. I'm going to show you. We've got the frets in, but when I went to string it up, I ran into a little issue. So stand by and see what I run into. Hold on. So I hope you can see this okay. You can see I pulled the strings off to the side here, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. So anyways, you can see we got the frets all put in. Really nice job on the frets. They come out nice, as you've seen in the video, and they went in fine too. And we thought, hey, oh, no big deal. We'll string it up and off we go. But before we get on with that, I just want to explain just what happened here. First of all, this Junior, the radius on this neck is 16, so it's a fairly flat. It's not a big radius on it, and so if I take my my gauge here and I check the radius, this is a 16, and I check the radius on these frets. And you go down, you can see that I've got these frets dressed in exactly perfect at 16 all the way along. In other words, there's no rock, there's no edge up too high or down too low. It's a perfect fit all the way across on the 16. However, when I put the strings on, and this is where I ran into the problem, I'm going to put these strings back on that I pulled off temporarily, and I tune up the guitar to pitch. What I'm finding out is, because these frets here were worn so bad, in fact they were worn almost to the fretboard, what's happened, this is worn down. This is, I checked, this is just a plastic nut, so although this is Martin, this is a really cheap nut they put on there. And what's happened, if you look at it, it's worn the groove right down farther than the rest of the strings, especially on the high E string. So I got a hold of the client, and I asked the question. I said, were you experiencing a buzz on that first string and a little bit on the second string? He says, oh yeah, it's been buzzing like a bugger. So now I know why, because this got the little gouges in the old frets got worn down so far that it started pulling and pushing. It wore right down the nut. And if you look at it, take a really good look, you can actually see how much lower, especially this E string is, versus the other strings. This one's worn a little bit down, but this one is down. And when I put it up to pitch, and I clamp a capo, let's say on this this fret here, right on over top of the fret like that, if I can get it, and I check the how much distance there is between the the bottom of the string and the top of this fret. I've got 8/1000ths of an inch right across. The second string here drops to 6/1000ths of an inch, and this guy is sitting right on top of the fret. So what that means is that now we're going to have to do a nut replacement on this thing. I mean, I could put a little bit of baking powder and crazy glue and fill this notch up, and then refile it. But I'm looking at this thing. It's a plastic nut, anyways. So talk to the customer about putting in a good replacement, like a self-lubricating tusk nut, which I think this is what we're going to go for. And also, it matches the original saddle as well. So we have that darker ivory saddle, and now we're going to have a darker, cream color ivory nut as well to go in here, and that's going to fix this problem. So it just goes to show you never know what you're going to run into when you're working on guitars. So this is a good example where I thought the job was all done, and I go to tune it up, and I got the first string buzzing like a bugger, and no way to resolve it because this groove and notch has been worn right down. I mean, it's way down as far as the rest of the nut strings are concerned. You can see that that if you look at a brand new nut, you can see how they are across. And the other thing too is when you're looking at this nut, this is the replacement for this Martin guitar here. It was ordered for this guitar, so the radius on that is also a 16, which is important. You don't want a nut or a saddle down the far end with a completely bigger radius like a 12 versus 16 on the fretboard. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put this on the overhead cam, get the strings out of the way, knock that nut out, and we're going to be doing a nut replacement next, so stay tuned. Well, I hope you can see that okay on the cam above. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to take this nut out of here. That's the next effort. And I'm just looking for my fret hammer, my bigger one. And we're going to see, hopefully they didn't glue this nut in like they glued the frets into on this son of a gun. We're going to see if we can just knock this nut out. Yeah, right out. There we go. So that nut come right out, I hope. Let's see what happens here. She's a tight fit. Everything they've done on this guitar has been a pain to work on. And I mean everything. Everything has been, for whatever reason, there it comes. There's the nut out. So, well, I don't know what they did here. It looks like they didn't put any glue on the bottom at all. It looks like they glued the side of it. So, I'm not sure what happened on this thing. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a new one. Just going to match up here to make sure. Looks like it's going to fit. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do some sanding and be back to you shortly. Well, we have the guitar back on the workbench here as we're continuing to work, and I made a slight change in the way things were going to happen here. I took another look at this. This is the existing nut. I didn't put in a new nut, and I was looking at the little bit of distance required on this. Basically, the high E string and the next string up, strings 1 and 2. So I decided to go for a little shim in the side, on this side of the nut. And you know what? That shim was so small to get this 8/1000ths of an inch clearance on this fret that I'm going to show you. Basically, if I flip this up and I take you for a close-up of the side of where that nut is, you cannot even see that shim. Because it's such a small little bit that it needed to come up that you can look right at it. I mean you can't even perceive that has a shim in it. So this, obviously, I talked to the client about this, text him. This saves him a few bucks as well because I don't know, $19, $20, $25. A bone nut maybe $30. So this nut was already the right size, cut to fit. It's just a little low on these two sides here. So anyways, we did the shim job. And the other thing I wanted to show you too is the dressing on the side of this fretboard here too. If you take a look at what was done in the factory, and you get into the ones I replaced, you cannot tell the difference between the factory installed frets and the ones I replaced. If you're going to do a job, do it right. Take your time. Do the correct filing that's required to make a nice dressing on the end of the frets here. And of course, if I flip the guitar over and look at the other side, you know, you can see exactly the same thing here. You really, you know, you really can't tell the factory installed frets from the ones I replaced. So I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. You know, I got her strung up now. We put number 12 Martin 12s on it. You know, we're still light, considered light strings, but you know, on the, I guess the next size up would be a 13s, and they'd be mediums. So we're gonna put the cam over up here on the side, and we're just gonna listen to how this sounds now. So just stand by. We'll do a little strumming on it. Well, welcome back. So just a couple little things I did after that that nut's in there. I set the relief on this neck. Got it set for 10/1000ths of an inch, and I've got the clearance set on the high E string and the low E string as per what the customer had before. So at this point in time, we have a finished and strung guitar. So we're going to just see what she sounds like now. Got it up to tune, up to pitch. Sounds pretty nice. So, nice thing to do is also check all your strings to make sure, you know, all the way up, make sure you got no fret buzz. So I would call this one's a done project. That was a bit of a challenge on that sucker. I think had a little curves thrown at me a few times, but yeah, I think we're set to go. I'm going to be able to text the client back and say, you know what, your Junior Martin's ready for pickup. So hopefully he enjoys playing it. I know I enjoyed playing it a few times. I played it a little bit before I show you this demo here to see what it feels like. It plays beautifully. It just feels like butter. It's so nice to play. But the important thing is the setup. And if you get the setup correctly done, you're going to have a guitar that's a joy to play. So anyways, over and out. See you later. Y'all have a good evening. Bye-bye now.